Welcome everyone. My name is Daniel Doring and I am a board member with the Liberty Area Chamber of Commerce. It's my pleasure to welcome you all here today to this candidate forum, and I will be serving as your moderator this evening. This forum will be recorded and will be available on the Chamber's website as well as on our social media platforms in the next few days. When we proceed to the questions and answers segment, in which all of you will have 1 minute to respond, the questions were selected from the community via online submissions. The final segment will be closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for their final comments. The candidates will be shown on a card indicating their remaining time. There will be one that says 30 seconds. And then once the stop sign is held up, all comments need to come to an end at that point, all right? So we are going to go through and we're gonna start introducing all of our candidates. We will be going by ward and then in alphabetical order from that point forward. So for mayor, Mr. Greg Knutson. All right. Council member Ward 1, Giselle A.B. Feast.
Close.
Fest, sorry. Shelton Ponder.
Good evening.
Council member for Ward 2, Adam D. Travis.
Present.
Council member for Ward 3, Todd V. Blair, and Kevin Graham. Council member for Ward 4 is Josh Crawford and Michael Hagan.
Good evening.
Matthew Smith, who was running, is no longer running for the office, therefore he is not participating in this event this evening. All right. So we will proceed with our opening statements. Each candidate is allowed 3 minutes to make your opening statements. Mr. Knutson, you may begin, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm running for mayor. I look around the room and I think I know almost everyone, and I think it's fantastic that the current city council members and the outgoing mayor and councilman Janess are here tonight. It shows what tremendous support we have in this community for our city and our city council and the people that are running for this office. I'm running for mayor. I've lived here almost all my life. I went to Liberty Public Schools, graduated from Liberty High School, went to William Jewell College, went to law school at the University of Missouri, came back, ran for the state legislature, and was the elected state representative for the Liberty area. At that time, I think the only people that supported me when I first filed for office were my parents and Kevin Graham. Kevin was iffy, and Kevin was my campaign manager, so I've known Kevin a very long time. And I have 2 daughters. They both went to Liberty Public Schools. They both graduated from William Jewell College. I love the town. I've lived here all my life almost, and I could live other places, and I choose to live here. And I live here because I think this is truly the best city in the Kansas City metropolitan area, and frankly, anywhere in the country. I've been a lot of places, and I choose to live here because I love this community, and I think that everything that is great about this community well, I think I really do believe that this is the best place in the country to raise a family. It's the best place to live, and we have so many things going for us, and we've been on a tremendous run for the last 14 years. I was mayor 14 years ago for 2 terms, and for the last 10 years, Lyndall Britton has been mayor. And if you look at the accomplishments, they have been vast, they've been extraordinary, they've been diverse, and I think that as we move forward, I want to continue what we've been doing for the last 14 years. I want to make sure that we have a diverse economic base. The health of a community is really dictated by how prosperous the community is. And we've done a great job of creating jobs. When I was mayor during the Great Recession, we created more jobs than there were unemployed people in the area. We had $600 million worth of investment during that time period, during the Great Recession. This community has been booming. And I think that, as I look around and I look at Lee Summit and Lenexa and Olathe and all these other cities and look at all the amenities that they have, I want to help bring those to this community. We need a new community center. We need a high-tech office park. We need a field house. We need an arboretum. There are all kinds of, we need to revitalize downtown. We've got a lot going for us. We got a great future, and everything that's been done in the last basically 2 decades has led to this, and our future is bright.
All right, thank you, sir. Council member from Ward 1, all right, Mrs. Fest.
Good evening. My name is Giselle, like a G and a cell phone, and pretty easy to remember. And after that, you don't know many other Giselles, so here we go. I really love Liberty. I chose Liberty. 40 years ago, we came here to Liberty, and we stayed in Liberty. My husband was raised here, and his father was a preacher here. I love all of Liberty, and I choose to be here. I ask the taxpayers also to choose me. I believe that I am the best candidate for Ward 1 to go forward. I understand sweat equity, and I can work hard for the citizens of Ward 1. I've been walking door to door, and I've been talking to those citizens, and it's really amazing when you get to go door to door and you shake someone's hand, and you look them in the eye, and you have a cup of coffee, or you sit on their porch and you talk. You really get to feel the heart of that ward. You get to feel the heart of those taxpayers. And the taxpayers are pretty much the same thing. They're saying the same thing, and they're pretty amazing people. What you hear over and over again when I talk to people is they want a good fire department. They do not want a fire department that's going to come and just save their basement. They want a fire department that is state of the art. They want a fire department that's going to save them and their neighbors. They also want a police force. They want a strong police force. With all the new development that's going on, they want a police force that's also state of the art. A police force that's going to take care of them. We're having a lot of crime that's starting to come into Liberty. We've had carjackings up at Hy-Vee. We've had things that are shoplifted out of our stores, from Dick's to Lowe's to Academy Sports. We need a police force that's going to be able to take care of that and to take care of each one of us. We also, the other overshadowing thing I hear from people over and over again is no new taxes. People are tired, not just a little tired, they're really tired. They're tired of their taxes. They're tired of taxes that don't have an expiration date. We are one of the most taxed citizens in the state. They would like to see how we could take that and go from an I want to an I need. How can we better economize? And all of us that go to the grocery store, we know what that's like. When we go to the grocery store and buy those eggs, we want an omelet, but we can afford oatmeal. So you know how to prioritize. That same prioritization is people are asking for their government. What will be the best choice for our citizens? We've got to quit pricing our senior citizens out of their homes. You know, I think I have a heart of a servant, and I'm a worker. And I love the city of Liberty. I chose the Liberty. I chose yesterday, today, and I choose tomorrow. And I thank you, and I'd appreciate if you would choose me as your next city councilman for Ward 1. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Also, council member for Ward 1, Mr. Ponder.
Good evening. My name is Shelton Ponder. I'm a descendant of one of the pioneer families of this county over 200 years ago. There's a vested interest I have in this community. My standards, my values, my moral compass originated here. Went to high school, went to grade school, went to Garrison School. I won't say grade school, I went to Garrison School. There's a difference. The people who preceded me in my life have been very instrumental, maybe grooming me for this. There are many good people qualified to be mayor, councilman, auditor. We all have a niche. We all have a desire. I have a need to serve the community and to serve it as I know I can. I have been indirectly serving it for quite some time. I've come and gone for the last 60 years. For the last 20 years, I have lived here, walked the streets, watch administrations change, count the bumps in the road, messed up sidewalks, no sidewalks. I look at Liberty as a whole, not just an area. the people who govern, volunteer, whatever their capacity, we all have a stake in this. The best thing about the fact that I am a candidate is that some years back, a young man sat here named Samuel Columbus Houston. I'm one of his surrogate sons. I'm a lot of people's surrogate son. When I come to people's houses, they pour one more cup of water in the soup, which made me more or less a part of the community because I've been coming and going. When you walk into that election, where the voting is done, look at that Shelton Ponder. Gauge him, because a lot depends on where we're going, and I am going to be a part of it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Council member for Ward 2, Mr. Travis.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the chamber for hosting, the city for allowing us to use the space. I think it's an invaluable opportunity for us to get to speak to the community. My name is Adam Travis. I have been a steward of your tax dollars for the past 15 years at the federal level, 8 years with the Department of Defense Inspector General's Office auditing, and the last 7 with the United States Department of Agriculture in various accounting roles, system roles, and budgetary roles. For the last 6 years, I've actually served on the Liberty Sales Tax Oversight Committee, reviewing the budgets, proving voter intent on sales tax spending. I have an Associates of Arts from the Maple Woods Community College, my Bachelor's of Science and Master's in Business Administration from Northwest Missouri State University. Go Bearcats! I have my Certified Public Accountant as well as being a Certified Information Systems Auditor. I have also got an Executive Leadership Certificate from the University of Kansas and am a Senior Executive Fellow graduate from Harvard. I have lived in the community for the past 16 years. I was actually doing some math and shocked myself when I wrote that number down. Then I wrote down my kid's age and it all started to make sense. I have a beautiful wife, a 10-year-old daughter who seems more like 18 sometimes and more like 1 when I try to remember her in my mind, and a 6-year-old who's just started kindergarten. We spend a lot of days hanging out in the parks. We spend a lot of days at the recreation center. We come down and see the mayor's Christmas tree lit up. We participate in the Liberty Community Christmas tree project and helping sort the food. And it's amazing the sense of value, the sense of community, the sense of working together that underline the sense of what everybody brings to this community. And I think it shows, as was stated earlier, in just the room full of past, present, and current members. The amount of former council folks who've actually reached out and been able to provide resources, I think, to all of us, made themselves available to explain the experience and make it just an incredibly welcoming environment. And I think I want to continue to work hard to bring that experience in government forward to help to continue to drive that sense of community and value for us as we move forward and make sure that we continue to be our best Liberty, especially as we go through this continued growth cycle. We have 14 years of great prosperity. I don't think we need to stop. I think we need another 14. So here's to the next 14.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, council members for Ward 3, Mr. Blair.
My name is Todd Blair. I've lived in Liberty now for over 20 years. Moved down here from Iowa 30-some years ago. And my wife and I, when we got married, we chose Liberty. We love Liberty. We chose Liberty because of the small community feel and the parks, the recreation that they have here, all the good events they have. And I'd like to serve the middle class. I really want to make sure that our families have a place to grow and thrive here in the future. I like to keep Liberty going in a good direction. Got a 12-year-old daughter, goes to the middle school, so I want to make sure the schools stay good in Liberty, you know, and help. I don't know if I can help that with the school board or not, but, and this is definitely kind of out of my wheelhouse, I guess. I'm just your average citizen that just decided to throw his name in the hat and see if I can make a difference for the city of Liberty. So I'm not a politician, and this is my first try at it. And hopefully maybe you'll vote for me for Ward 3.
Thank you, sir. Also for Ward 3, Mr. Graham.
Thank you. My name is Kevin Graham. I am the current Ward 3 council member. I've been on council for 10 years now. And I want to start by kind of confirming something Mr. Knutson said. I think by my count, the entire current council is here tonight. And I think that's remarkable. And I want to thank all of them who are here. The attendance tonight is better than most of our meetings, so that's great. I'm looking at you, Harold. Oh, he's left. Oh, did he leave?
Yeah, he walked out. He walked in.
Perfect.
You'll hear it on the recording.
I want to particularly thank Councilmember Janess, and particularly thank Councilmember Duncan, both of whom are outgoing. But mostly, I'd like to thank Mayor Brenton. He was kind enough to select me to fill his shoes, his very big shoes, when he left my Ward 3 position to become mayor. And we've served together for 10 years, and his leadership has been outstanding. He often says that we have a very high-functioning council, and I agree with that, but what never gets said is we have a high-functioning mayor, and he has done a remarkable job. I've lived in Liberty for 46 years. I moved here when I was 9 or 10, roughly. Long enough ago that there was no middle school. I went to the junior high school, which is now a middle school, which used to be the high school. But I went to the junior high school, and I went to Liberty High School. I've raised my family here. I live here. I have 2 daughters who are in the high school. I met my wife here at the Hunan Garden. It's been a long time that we've lived here, and it's been a great place to live. It's been a great place to work. I have a small business right on the square. And it's a great place to raise children. I want to talk just a little bit about what we've accomplished in the last 10 years, and I'll probably bleed into the last 14 as well. Investment in a community is what makes a community healthy. And if you measure the health of this community, we are healthier now than we've ever been. Just in the last 10 years, I think the number is approximately $1.4 billion of investment into this community. If you go the 4 years before that, I think the number gets close to $2 billion. And that's investment. That's new homes, new places to live. That's new places to work. That's parks. And we've done a fantastic job. And things like the flyover, the animal shelter, Liberty Commons. How Liberty has transformed while I've been on council has been remarkable. And I'm really proud of that. And I really do look forward to having an opportunity to continue that. So I appreciate your consideration for Ward 3.
All right, thank you. Council members for Ward 4, Mr. Crawford.
Thank you guys for coming tonight. My name is Josh Crawford. I'm the owner of Janus Pizza here in Liberty, Missouri. My core values are God and family. I believe in fiscal responsibility, making sure our first responders are adequately taken care of. Why I think I'm the best candidate for City Council Ward 4 is because I'm an entrepreneur and a local businessman. As a local business owner, I wear many hats, from being the CEO to the CFO of my company. As the CEO, I have to work closely with my staff and local vendors to make sure we get the best product at the best price to make sure our store succeeds. As the CFO, when I make a financial decision for my company, it directly affects my pocketbook. So, if I am able to make it on City Council, I have that same mindset with the city's tax dollars, because that's coming from the local people. I'm going to keep this short and sweet, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, also from Ward 4, Mr. Hagan.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the chamber, Gail, for hosting, and Daniel, I thank you for moderating tonight. I'm excited to be here, and I look forward to a good discussion. I'm Michael Hagan. I'm council member in Ward 4, and I've lived in Liberty since 2006 when my wife and I got married. And her name's Melissa, by the way, and we have 3 wonderful children, Claire, who's 11, Connor, who's 8, and Hazley, who's 5. I have an MBA in finance from UMKC, go Roos. And in my day job, I'm CFO at B&B Theaters. In my role in B&B, I'm responsible for overseeing not only our local theater here in Liberty, but all of our 53 small businesses in communities like Liberty all over the country. I'm running again for re-election to continue to make Liberty a great place to live, work, and play. In my time on the council, we've increased the number of firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, and police officers on our streets to keep our communities our community and our kids safe. We've increased the pay of these first responders from being near the bottom in the metro to now near the top. We're no longer simply a training ground for these critical positions. And I'm proud to have had my actions recognized by the local Liberty firefighters who have endorsed my campaign. In addition, I also serve on the budget committee for the city. We've maintained a balanced budget even while faced with the pandemic. We have some of the lowest city tax rates in the metro and the second lowest city tax rates in Clay County. I've kept a keen eye on your tax dollars, and I've asked hundreds of questions of staff about budget expenditures. When interest rates were low, I pushed city staff to refinance our bonds, saving Liberty taxpayers millions of dollars. With the other two members of the budget committee not seeking re-election, my re-election will offer continuity to this key city committee. We've also improved transportation across the city, improvements at all of our major I-35 interchanges, most significantly turning Kansas Street from a parking lot into a corridor that effectively moves traffic along and across the I-35 bridge. We've created over 5,000 jobs at both large businesses and scores of small businesses in the city. Collectively, these businesses have invested over $1.4 billion in Liberty. All of our neighborhood parks have received upgrades, and City Park is once again the signature park of Liberty. We've added 2 disc golf courses, a dog park, sand volleyball courts, pickleball courts, and more. And looking forward, I want to build on this success. In the next 4 years, we need to find a long-term solution to our public safety funds to continue to support our first responders. While we can meet our current obligations, without a long-term solution, we'll run into problems starting in 2025. I look forward to leading the Budget Committee in these discussions. And I'll continue to support smart growth. Tax incentives will be used wisely to bring quality jobs to the city or to meet a strategic objective of the City Council. I'll also work on quality of life issues, including advocating for continued park improvements and more trails. And I'll support no new taxes without a vote of the people. And of course, I'll continue to solve problems for you and to be your voice on this City Council. You can find out more about my campaign on Facebook or HagenForLiberty.com, and I'd be honored to have your vote on April 4th.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all of the candidates for your opening statements this evening. We will be moving on to our question portion of this evening's forum. The order of these questions has been determined by a lot drawn earlier. We have time for 6 questions this evening. Each candidate is allowed 1 minute to respond to each of the questions. Our first question for this evening is, how do you feel about raising property taxes to boost city services such as police, fire, and public works? How would you propose to increase services for fire and police? And if anyone needs that repeated, just let me know. All right, Mrs. Fest, you have the first minute.
I do not support any property tax. When I listen to people in Ward 1, they're definitely opposed to that. What they really think that we ought to be doing is looking and prioritizing some of our other avenues in our budget.
All right. Mr. Travis.
Yes, sir. I think it's really a portfolio of how we create our budgeting. It comes from a combination of sales tax revenue as well as property tax, and it's really about creating that balanced portfolio for our community. I know traditionally in the past we've been successful in being able to use sales tax and our resource being the access to the 35 highway and some of what that's brought in to continue to support the community. I think as we see the growth and the expansion we're going to have over the next 10 years, it's going to be important to really look at what our intake and what the financial availability is compared to our needs, and we're going to have to make sure that we cover that. I think to look at that and not look at your cost against our expenditures would be very hard to say yes, no to property tax. I think it's part of the package and how we build a successful budget to run the city.
Mr. Blair.
I do not support raising our personal property tax. We're already paying plenty, toward our personal property. I think what we need to do is take the tax revenue we're getting right now and spend it more wisely. And I think that would go a lot further than making people pay more for their property.
Mr. Hagan.
Thank you. In general, I would not support an increase in property taxes for that. However, it is a tool that is available in the toolbox should that become necessary. As I mentioned, I think finding long-term funding solutions for our firefighters is a key goal and probably the biggest challenge we face over the next 4 years. There are lots of things we can do. There is an additional quarter-cent sales tax that we could ask the voters to potentially approve if that's out there. We also have additional funding sources coming in over this coming year with the potential for the Wayfair tax, as well as then we have the marijuana tax that's on the ballot coming in April. And if that passes, that is dedicated to public safety. So I also agree with Mr. Travis. There's kind of, you have to figure out what the best mix is. And I think we've got lots of potential tools in our toolbox. And I look forward to leading the Budget Committee and the council in those discussions as we try to find a long-term solution.
Mr. Ponder.
When you say taxes, you get everybody's attention. And one of the things that has to be considered among many, who will benefit? Where will the majority of whatever is brought in go? Taxes are essential. Taxes are the base of this country. Personal property tax, I understand, okay? I know people gripe about them, etc., and yet it's still a way to maintain what is here, but also to build on what we can. Taxes are a part of life. I don't advocate raising taxes without the citizens' consent, yet when an informed citizenry understands what is at risk or what is at stake or whatever, you're gonna have complaints no matter what you do. If you give everybody $1 million, somebody's gonna complain.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Knudsen.
In the 4 years as a state legislator and the 4 years as mayor, I've never supported a tax increase without a vote of the people and never will.
Thank you. Mr. Crawford.
Yeah. Thank you guys again for coming out tonight. No new taxes, definitely. We need to look at the budget and see where we're at with the budget. Is it a need or a want? Obviously, our first responders is definitely a need. So just kind of looking where are we spending our money as the city council, and how can we be more fiscally responsible with it to make sure that our needs are taken care of first before our wants. Thank you.
Mr. Graham.
I guess I'll take a slightly different approach on this. I mean, everyone is against raising taxes. I'm against raising taxes. But there is a fact here, which is that the state caps the taxes that we have. Our taxes can't really be raised when it comes to property taxes. And so that's not really an issue. I mean, we pay our taxes, we set the taxes, but we can't really raise them. And that's not possible under the current law, and it won't change. The other fact that no one wants to talk about is our taxes, when you get a tax bill, maybe 10% of that is city taxes. The vast majority goes to other entities. It's not the city. The other thing that we're not saying here is this city is extraordinarily responsible with our dollars and will continue to be. And we found the dollars to pay our law enforcement, and we'll continue to do so. Things like the marijuana sales tax, which the public gets to vote on, is dedicated for that purpose. Other cities aren't doing that, but that's what we're doing. And I think that's exactly how we will address our law enforcement and public safety officials.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to question number 2. How do you plan to communicate with constituents if you do not have a social media presence? How will constituents be able to reach you? All right, first up is Mr. Knudsen.
Well, my cell phone is 816-309-9242.
And he'll answer it.
I will answer it. I used to put that on every piece of campaign literature I ever handed out. I gave my phone number out, and I asked people if they wanted to get a hold of me, they could do that. I also intend to have a more robust social media presence in the next few weeks. But I always have given my phone number out, and I welcome phone calls. I try to call people back, and I think that those folks that have dealt with me when I was a state legislator or mayor will tell you that I think I'm very responsive, and I love talking to people. I love talking about liberty. I love talking about the future of liberty with people, and if people are willing to engage in good faith conversations, I'm happy to do so at all times.
Mr. Blair.
All my campaign literature has my Facebook page and my email address. People can get a hold of me that way. That's about all I've done so far.
Mr. Graham.
I have a website, Facebook page. My mobile phone is available for everyone. You can reach me at any time. I have responded to emails frequently through the city and through personal. I get emails and phone calls at my office all the time. I'm always happy to address whatever constituent issues I have, and I think it's worked fantastic.
Mr. Ponder.
There's a young man who's running my campaign who is very computer savvy. He's my savior. Okay, I don't mind telling you. I'm better looking than he, but he's smarter. I have a Facebook page. I have a personal Facebook page. I have cards that are all over the city. Sometimes I'm standing in the men's room and I'll see one of my cards there. I don't know how it got there. But anyway, I use everything available and I'm accessible. People stop me on the streets because I'm so handsome and just want to communicate about various things. I'm here. You can't miss me.
Thank you. Mr. Travis.
Yes, well, I'm not as handsome as Sheldon, so I just want to get that out of the way for voters. I do also have social media available. I am terrible about letting my phone die, which my wife will be the first to tell you about if you meet her on the street, but I have that available. We'll respond to email and social media as well. I generally am running around the parks with my kids. I am generally at most Liberty events and functions, and I love to talk, which my kids will also complain about. So feel free to stop me. Feel free to make my kids wait for 5 minutes, but we have a great conversation. They'll make me pay for it later. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Fest.
Well, I do all use the social media that is available, but all my material, I do have my phone number and my email. And with that, I've already been answering people of the Ward 1 what their questions and issues they had. If they had a question, I've been able to take that and find someone in City Hall and alleviate some of their problems. I also use Nextdoor, which is a wonderful social media platform. I also use the coffee shop, where you can find a lot more when you sit across the table from someone. When you're having coffee or food, you really get to know them. And that's what I would suggest, continuing that, as well as some neighborhood meetings. Thank you.
Mr. Crawford.
Yeah, I have a Facebook page as well, email address. But if anybody knows me, I'm not really that hard to find. I'm at my restaurant quite a bit, so I have people pop in pretty frequently, so at JNS Pizza, so thank you guys.
And Mr. Hagan.
Yes, as most others have said, I also maintain a Facebook page and have for a number of years. Often get comments on there that I'll respond to, but you can find my contact information currently on the city website, hopefully after the election, also on the city website. And as well on all my campaign literature at HagenForLiberty.com. It's all there, 816-217-3250 if we're going to repeat our phone numbers, Mr. Knudsen, which is all good. But I'm out, I'm accessible. I've taken phone calls and emails day and night. You can always find time to reach me, and I'll always respond. Maybe not right away if I can't take the call, but I'll always get back to you if you leave a message.
Mr. Hagan, Mr. Graham forgot to give his phone number.
He
So
did.
let me give it to everyone. 816-213-0298. He had plenty of time to respond, and I just thought I'd go ahead and give it out to everybody out there. And
46 years I've dealt with this.
All right, thank you, everyone. All right, question number 3. All right, what is your position on free speech? All right. We will start with Mr. Crawford.
I totally believe in free speech. It's one of our constitutional rights. So it's one of those things where who am I to tell somebody what they can or cannot say, So that's where I stand on that. So thank you.
Mrs. Fest.
Absolutely, I believe in free speech.
Mr. Blair.
I do believe in free speech.
All right. Mr. Graham.
Can I take their time too?
Kevin, you can have mine.
Yeah, I believe in free speech, but I'll say this a little bit more than that. Part of my job, I deal with free speech. One of the things I do is I'm a practicing attorney. One of the things I do in that is I represent employees. Some of the biggest cases I've had are specifically under the First Amendment. Probably the biggest case would be a case where I represented a number of law enforcement officers, sheriff's deputies, who were fired for because they supported a candidate in a campaign, and we sued under the First Amendment. And I've spent great portions of my career fighting for that very issue, And so I am obviously, like everyone, a big proponent of free speech, but it is absolutely the most, it's part of the First Amendment, and in this case, I think the First Amendment is the most important amendment we have. So that's what I'll say.
Mr. Hagan?
Thank you. I don't think there'd be any disagreement amongst us at all up here that freedom of speech is a fundamental right in this country, certainly protected under the First Amendment. And we see citizens exercise that all the time, come and speak to us about a whole host of issues before city council meetings, telling us what's on their mind, calling us up on the phone, telling us what's on their mind and asking their questions. And they certainly have every right to do that. And I absolutely encourage them to let us know what's going on and to tell us what they're thinking, good or bad, whether I agree or disagree.
Mr. Knudsen?
I don't know where this question originated from, but we live in the city of Liberty, and the last time I checked that the American flag was still flying over the courthouse, and I don't know why anybody would even question the idea of freedom of speech. So, I think the reason that all these answers are so short is because we live in the heartland of the United States of America. Everybody here believes in free speech. So I don't know where that question came from, but the idea that somebody would even question that in the city of Liberty is offensive.
Mr. Ponder?
Free speech comes with responsibility. That's the first thing that should be considered. Those men who sat and wrote that had many things on their minds. What they said and what they did were two different things. But what they put in motion through the years has been probably the bedrock, because many things happen to many different people because of free speech. People were lynched because of free speech. People were run out of town. Many things happen. Free speech comes with a responsibility. I'm all for it.
Thank you. And Mr. Travis?
Yes, sir. Again, not to be too much of an echo chamber here, but yes, not looking to go against the Bill of Rights. Not going to support any city council action that might lead us in that direction. And it sounds like Kevin's going to come after me if I do, so let's stay in his good graces. Thank you.
Very good. All right, thank you all. Before we move on to the next question, just a point of clarification that all of these questions did come from residents of Liberty. They were all submitted through the candidate forum website and everything that was created, where they could go and submit these questions. So these are not questions from the Liberty Area Chamber of Commerce. These are candidate questions. I did not make these questions. All right, here we go. So this next one is a long one. So if, like I said, if you do need any clarification or repeating, please let me know. The following statement references this question. As a business owner, I am concerned about the use of social media and the damage it can do a business's reputation when coming from community leaders. For example, stating the name of a business or business owner on public pages if they are not involved in the subject being discussed. As a public official, do you anticipate any changes in your personal social media use? If yes, why would you change it only if you win? All right. We will start with Mr. Travis, after you've had a chance to process that.
Can we just do that one more time?
Yeah,
There was a few layers, and
Yeah.
I think we took some turns on that one, so just I want to make sure I answered the question.
Yes,
Sorry,
yeah,
apologies.
that was a condensed.
No, not at all. You're
All right, so the following statement references this question. As a business owner, I am concerned about the use of social media and the damage it can do to a business's reputation when coming from community leaders. For example, stating the name of a business or business owner on public pages if they are not involved in the subject being discussed. As a public official, do you anticipate any changes in your personal social media use? And if yes, why would you change it only if you win?
I think I am generally pretty authentic in what I post on my pages. I don't look for that to change as a result of any election result. I will probably try to be more consistent in the frequency. I currently take a lot of social media breaks and things of that nature. I think with being cognizant of the time we spend on that and the time we spend outdoors is incredibly important. It's important to me as a parent. As it relates to businesses and that, I think we as community leaders do need to ensure that the statements we make are fair and represent the values and beliefs we have. Again, I'm still somewhat, just going to be full disclosure, a little confused at the intent on that one, but I will at least recognize that I will be consistent in what I do online.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Knudsen.
I have no idea what that question was getting at. So I guess what I would prefer to talk about is the future of the city and what some of us have planned, to do in the agenda that we're for, because that's what's really important is what we're planning to do for the next decade and the type of city we want to leave for our children. I want to have I have a daughter that graduated from Mizzou and graduated from law school, and she's moved to Washington, D.C. And I have another daughter that's in med school, and her husband is in grad school at Emory. And I want to have the type of community where they would want to move back to. And I want to make sure that we have, and there was just a strategic plan that was done recently, and we had a bunch of people in this room, and I looked around, and I think I was the youngest one in the room at the time. And I thought, what we really need to do is talk to the younger folks and ask them, what do they want the city to look like? Because the people in this room, in many ways, have already served a lot of time, and served a lot of this community, and I think that we ought to be getting at what type of community do we want to have, how do we go about doing that, and that's what I'd prefer the questions really relate to.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Graham.
So the short answer is my use won't change, and that's because I don't use social media that much. Win or lose, it'll be about the same. But I'll get to what I think the question may be trying to ask, or at least intimate, is that maybe social media isn't all that healthy for a community. And I don't think I disagree with that, especially as the parent of two high schoolers. I don't know that social media is always a good thing. I think we rely on it too much, and it has too much anonymity. And I think the real answer, and I've heard this earlier tonight, is I would much rather talk to people in Hy-Vee. I would much rather talk to people in the pizza shop, the coffee shop. I think that's really where we learn about each other. It's a lot easier to talk behind a keyboard. It's a lot harder to talk in person, but it shouldn't be. And I would really advocate. I think that's what the question's kind of getting to, and at least that's how I'm going to interpret it. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. Mrs. Fest.
I believe to be no change. I'd be authentic, and I would also consider more one-on-one, because you can tell a lot more when you exchange food or drink across the table, and you can see someone's eyes, and you can hear the tone of their voice.
Mr. Hagan.
Thank you. Somewhat what Kevin said, I think too often social media is actually anti-social media, and I think we can often end up with things that end up harming people or whatever. Now, related to the previous question, people have a right to, related to free speech, to state their beliefs, and government can't intrude on that. However, I think as a community leader, you still have a responsibility to not go out and malign a particular business. I think it's okay if you don't like a particular business to simply ignore them on social media. And if you like something, go ahead and post about it. I don't think anybody's gonna do that, but I think we certainly need to be cognizant of what we're posting on social media, especially as community leaders, because people do, hopefully respect us and look for our opinions. So I'm also not overly active on social media, but I am out there, and certainly have always tried to be cognizant of what I say there, and that's not going to change.
Mr. Ponder.
I go back to Smith Corona typewriter. My daughter brought me into this other century, but the social media has, like everything else, it comes with the good, the bad, the in-between. People interpret what they choose according to their experiences, not what you say. And sometimes, and I've been blamed for some things, and as I state, if I have to tell you something, I can look at you and tell you. You may not like the way it sounds, but I'm capable of saying what I have to say, and I can use a computer. But I believe talking to people one-on-one is essential. Use what's available to get the best product.
Thank you. Mr. Blair?
My social media use will probably just stay the same as it is now, just happy posts and informative posts if I need to inform the community.
And Mr. Crawford?
As a local business owner, definitely social media, negative comments affect my business. So, I believe in positivity. If, just because you don't like a place doesn't mean you need to say something bad, because there's small businesses that are struggling here in the Liberty community at some times and whatnot. As far as my campaign page, I pledge to continue to increase that and continue to engage the Liberty community and be very accessible to all my constituents, everyone in Ward 4, and across the whole city. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to question number 5. While specific voting details are private, your voting record as to how many elections you have voted in is accessible at the election board. Are you a regular voter in municipal elections, and if not, why? Mr. Knudsen?
Yes.
There you go. All right, Mr. Travis?
Ditto.
You guys are making my job way too easy here tonight. I have to say. All right, Mrs. Fest?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hagan?
Yes, I am, and the second part of the question was, why? And I think it's important to stay engaged with the community. Obviously, we have elections in April every year, not just city council and mayor every 2 years, et cetera. But I think it's also important to be engaged and understand who's running for the school board, so you can make your selections there, hospital board, or local ballot issues as well. And I'm proud to say that I've voted in all past April local elections, as well as all other elections since I've moved to the city.
Let's see, where are we at? Mr. Graham?
So short answer, yes. Longer answer is voting's essential, and I think I haven't missed an election, and I'll be more specific than I guess everyone else. I think I haven't missed an election since prior to 1992. And what I mean by that, I mean every election. Most people think, well, I vote for president, vote, for governor and senator. We typically have 3 to 4 elections per year. And I think I voted in every one for over 30 years now. And that includes the municipal election. Now, the question was about municipal elections. And that's, every April we have municipal elections, and I vote every year. And about 8% of our population does. So I think that's something that I guess, I'm happy that everyone votes in the municipal elections, but it's pretty rare. And I think the second part of that is, it's because I think local government's essential. And I think local government's actually the most important part of our democracy. I think local government arguably is the only part of our democracy that continues to work and function well. And I would encourage everyone, regardless of who you vote for, to vote this April.
Mr. Crawford?
Okay. To be honest, it's a hit or miss. Working in the restaurant industry, sometimes, depending on the flow of business, you're not able to get out. And I know that your employer is supposed to let you go, but that's not always the case. So, to answer your question honestly, so.
Thank you. And Mr. Ponder?
I may have missed an election or two, but been in and out the majority of the time, which I call it voter suppression, because I had to go out to Hosanna and without a vehicle, and I complained about that. They moved me down to the Second Baptist Church now. Maybe that did some good, but I believe in voting, and I stress voting. Too many lives were lost because people chose not to vote or to be scared out of voting. I can walk to the ballot box now and vote.
Thanks, sir. All right, our last question of the evening. What are our city's top 3 capital improvement project needs, and how would you fund them? We'll start with Mr. Travis.
All right. I think, I mean, obviously, there's tons of capital improvement projects. We've recently gone with the park plan and the city improvement plan. Among the probably less noteworthy, but I think we really need to make an effort to improve our sidewalks, especially in some of our older districts. I think there is a need with our rec center to go through some sort of improvements and enhancements. And then I think there is some continued use for the development of kind of our parks and some of our outdoor areas and field houses in terms of making accessibility and continue our parks and rec growth. Wow, 30 more seconds, and I got to go through how we're going to fund these things. I think the advantage we have is that we have been very responsible in some of our 10-year forecasting, some of our budget projections, and we have found a way to kind of grow and do this responsibly over time. And I think that's what we'll have to continue to go with our budget committees, with our different groups, and really just plan and strategize.
If I can interrupt you for just a second. So you guys were really quick on some of these questions, so we have a little bit extra time. So instead of 1 minute, we will give this question 2 minutes. That way you guys have plenty of time.
On this topic, 2 minutes.
Yes, exactly. All right, so continue, Mr. Jackson.
All right, sounds good. And I think that's where you look at some of what we do with the, again, the budget forecasting over the 5-year projections within like the sales tax oversights and making sure that we look at how we want to allocate some of those funds. I know in the next model, we do have some for sidewalk improvements. With the park plan and really identifying what the core values of our community and what we want to see as we build those up, looking at the needs and trying to get those things. I think it comes down to great planning, especially when you start to take on some of these bigger, more expensive, more ambitious projects, is to make sure, A, we've properly evaluated the needs of the community and we've gotten what they need, and B, that we have a solid budgeting, a solid forecasting, and a solid projection models to allow us to truly finance and do those responsibly over time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mrs. Fest.
That is a hard question. I have two. It would be the police department. I think they're crammed over into the corner here. We need to actually get them a larger building. We need them to get more equipment to that. And the other would be our fire department. As our developments are growing, where our need for a fire department increases, also the equipment we need. As our buildings are going up, we need ladders and different type of equipment that can get to those things as well. The other things, those would be my two primary things that I would be interested. And I think, again, we come back to looking at our budget and what our priorities are. And look at those budgets and those sales tax and go through and decide what those are. Difference between a need and a want.
Thank you. Mr. Hagan.
Thank you. Actually agree with Ms. Vest there. I think we have a strong need, especially if Montage continues to grow, for probably Fire Station 4, which they're going to be granting us some land for to put up out there. I believe the police facility needs some upgrades, whether that's reworking things here or combining them potentially with a facility over that way as well. And our community center is really aging. We certainly need to reinvest back into our community center. Maybe it's a new facility, which is going to be $50 million, so it's not going to be a small expenditure. Or perhaps it's adding on, revamping, and doing some different things there. I also think, if I can be permitted maybe 4, I think we need to invest heavily in trails. We just had a meeting the other night about the needs and wants of our city for trails in our Parks Department. And of course, the Parks budget is completely separate. You can't take money from Parks and use it for fire, so there are different buckets of money that go there. But I think those are probably top 4 kind of key issues relative to capital improvements and big projects that need to be out there. And again, relative to the funding sources, I think there's, I can't sit up here today and say I would support X, Y, or Z specifically on how to fund them, because every project kind of comes up at a different time. Your budget, from year to year, maybe there's a bonding issue that is rolling off that you could rebond a dedicated source of funds to pay for one of these new projects. There's all kinds of, again, tools in the toolbox, as we talked about before, to do it. And I think I've got a good pulse on what those might be, and could be happy to lead the way on how to put those all together to make some of these projects happen.
Thank you. Mr. Knudsen.
I think that the number one capital project that I think that we should think about immediately is, we've all talked about a downtown parking garage for a very long time, and it seems to be an impediment to downtown revitalization. It's impediment to the county courthouse right now. It's the county courthouse. We have a great opportunity right now to work on that project, to open up a lot of investment into downtown, to work with the county. As you all know, the county constitution went into effect recently. We added a number of legislators at the county level. Things seem to be doing very well at the county. We've got good leadership at the county. I've spoken recently within the last 7 days to the presiding commissioner. They're looking to expand the courthouse. They have a new circuit judge coming on. There's going to be room for an associate circuit judge. They have a problem with judges having to go into the courthouse, essentially walking next to the same defendants that they're going to be putting into prison, and their families that are accompanying them to jail, or to the courtroom that are ultimately going to go to jail. I think that we have a great opportunity to do something with state funding, with cooperation with the county and the city. We could look at the police. We could look at redoing the police department, expanding to the east. That's going to be a very difficult, heavy lift. We'll be looking at our county legislators, our state legislator. I'm not afraid to ask people for money, and I'm not afraid to go and seek all types of CDBG grant funding and other pots of money that are available at the state level for that type of facility. But I think that's something that could really energize the community, help with if we ultimately build a performing arts theater downtown. But I think that's something that we could actually prioritize, and it's something that we could actually do, not very quickly, but pretty quickly, with a lot of cooperation between the county, the state, and the city. And I'd like to see a lot more of that as we move forward.
All right, thank you. Mr. Blair?
I think we need to make sure our first responders have all the equipment they need to do their job and do their job well, keep us safe. Our streets are horrible right now, most of them. I know the one I live on is not in good shape. Sidewalks need repaired. And that's about it for me.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Graham?
So you asked for 3 projects, and in my campaign, I've kind of said that I've got 3 priorities. The first is public safety, and I agree with everyone. I think we need to focus on facilities for both police and fire. Fire, particularly both north and south, as the city continues to develop along the South Liberty Parkway and then up around Montage. That's essential, because response time is critical when it comes to law enforcement and fire. With regard to basic services, my second priority, and I agree, our roads, our sidewalks in particular. It's been a project that we've worked on, is how do we improve the sidewalks, particularly when you're dealing with a 200-year-old city. You know, this isn't something that was thought of 80, 90, 100 years ago, but it is something that's necessary now. One of the ones that is particularly important to me is the area on Liberty Drive where there's no sidewalk as you approach in front of Whitehall area, and that's one that we've been working on quite a bit. The third is parks, and we have a huge need to upgrade the community center. In my mind, we have our most pressing need is a field house, some place that our kids can go to and play, that is indoor and outdoor, that has a larger space, because there's really nothing like that in the Northland. And I'll tell you that when it comes to paying, you know, if you don't want to raise taxes, which no one does, and I don't, you got to be creative. You got to go to the state. You got to look for federal money. You have to work within the budgets that we've had, and to be honest, over the last 10 years, we've done a really good job of responsibly paying for these things and putting us in a position to move forward. But the last thing that I would also suggest is we should explore public-private partnerships, particularly with the field house. There are ways to make that happen that don't require a tax increase, and that's the kind of thing that we need to be looking for. We need to be a little more creative in how we fund these things.
Thank you. Mr. Ponder?
Safety is #1 concern of everyone, but you have to take care of the people who keep you safe. They need everything that's required to do their job. If you want first class this or first class that, you have to pay for it. If your salary is where you want it to be and you're comfortable, that's okay. But make sure someone else's is where it needs to be in order for them to come to your burning house or take your sick mother-in-law to the hospital or whatever. We want. Need supersedes everything. I walk these streets. I've invited people to come to walk the streets with me because I feel like once you put your feet on the sidewalk, if you can look down and see the rebar, you know it's dangerous. The children coming from the middle school, if they're walking up Mississippi Street, there are no sidewalks. Will it take for a child to be hit, maimed, besides what it does to the motorist, to put in 4 feet of sidewalk? The sidewalks in North End are deplorable. North End is across Mississippi Street. Sidewalks everywhere are deplorable. Whatever you're gonna do outside, do inside first and then work outside.
Thank you. Mr. Crawford?
Yeah, definitely agree with what everyone else is saying. Our first responders are a top priority. With Liberty growing as fast as it is, that we need to make sure we're not behind the curve on that. You know, we need to make sure they're adequately equipped and paid. They're being paid very well now, but that doesn't mean that in a year or two now, they don't need a pay raise. And that's, you know, one of those things where, you know, as a business owner, you know, you gotta be competitive to get the best, you know, staffing in. Also, you know, keeping up with our sidewalks, making sure, you know, they're maintained properly. Our fire hydrants, making sure they're all up to code. You know, if the fire department pulls up and one's out of code, then it's not really gonna help. So, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. All right, so that concludes the questions portion of our forum this evening. We will now ask each candidate for their closing remarks. The order will be the opposite as the introductions were made this evening. Each candidate will have 4 minutes for your closing remarks this evening. Give you a bonus. All right, so going in reverse order, we will start this evening with Mr. Hagan.
Hey, that's good. Ward 4 gets to go first.
Yes.
That's always nice. Well, thank you again, Gail and the Chamber, for hosting this event tonight. Daniel, I appreciate your time, and thank you for moderating as well. We've talked tonight about a lot of issues. We talked where I stand on them, and I want to simply say that if you have any questions or concerns, you want to seek clarification, please reach out to me. My contact information, as we talked about earlier, is available on my website, hagenforliberty.com, and I gave you my cell phone number just a few minutes ago. What we haven't talked about a lot tonight is probably the thing that I'm most proud of in my time on the council, and that's solving issues for citizens. I stood outside until almost midnight with my Ward 4 counterpart, Gene Gentrup, one evening in 2021. We were talking with a resident while a water main break was being repaired in their front yard, and they were a little concerned. There was no running water in their home. Just last year, I saved a homeowner on Prairie Street over $17,000 because they had a sewer backup, and they were having to drive to neighboring businesses to use the restroom while the wife was about 8 months pregnant. But I knew we had had previous issues on Prairie Street due to poor sewer connections that were made by a previous contractor, and I pushed city staff to take a second look, and we got that problem solved for that homeowner. When the Claywoods and Clay Meadows subdivisions were plagued with sunny day power outages, I successfully pushed city staff to push Evergy to upgrade their outdated equipment in order to keep the lights on. The Liberty Manor subdivision suffered from severe flooding issues for decades before I was elected. And I worked with city staff, and I found money in the budget to solve that problem within 2 years of first being elected. I've also worked to solve erosion and sewer issues in Southland Estates. And with my counterpart at the time, Councilman Nick King, I brought running water to homes along Ruth Ewing and Birmingham Road, fulfilling a long overdue promise that was made to residents before I was even born. I've advocated on behalf of residents who had exorbitant water bills due to unseen water leaks, and I've attended numerous citizen-organized meetings to discuss issues that they're having in their neighborhoods and then to find ways to solve them. I've worked with residents to change outdated ordinances, and of course, I've answered more emails and phone calls than I can even count. In short, I'm available. I'm accessible. You can contact me anytime, day or night, and you have. You've shown up on my front doorstep, in fact, and I'm happy to answer the door. If I'm reelected, I'll continue to advocate for citizens and continue to solve their problems while also being a good steward of tax dollars. I'm honored to have been endorsed by the Liberty firefighters. And as I mentioned previously, you can find out more about my campaign on Facebook or at HagenForLiberty.com. I appreciate your consideration, and I ask for your vote on April 4th.
Thank you very much. Mr. Crawford.
I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Thank the chamber for hosting. What I bring is, new eyes and fresh blood to city council. I think that's one aspect that I could bring. Also, being an entrepreneur and a local businessman gives me a unique perspective. The city is kind of like running a business, so I have a very unique perspective on that. I'm going to keep it short. I appreciate everyone coming out tonight, and God bless.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you. Mr. Graham.
Thank you. Appreciate everyone being here tonight. In my opening remarks, I talked about myself and introduced myself a little bit, and I talked about what we've done in the last 10 years, kind of what the history has been. For my closing remarks, maybe I'll talk about the future a little bit. And one thing I guess I want to start with is a couple concepts about the City of Liberty. And I want to talk about the City of Liberty because I think really vision is what the future is. And that's the number one job of the council is to have a vision. I think if I said two terms, I think most people would agree with one and probably disagree with the other. The first term is that Liberty is a small city, and we are. We're a reasonably small city. We don't have our own football team. We have to go downtown to Kansas City, the big city, for many of our amenities, perhaps. So we are a small city, and I think that's a good thing. The second concept I want to throw out that I think maybe a lot of people would disagree with is that we're a world-class city. But I believe that. I think we are a world-class city. And I say that, I've had the privilege to travel, to go around the world, to go to a lot of cities. And I can tell you without a doubt, there's no other place I'd rather live. And in my mind, if I've been to cities all around the world, and this is where I choose to live, that makes this a world-class city. And I think that's the vision that we should have, is that we are a world-class city. But it doesn't come easy. It's real easy to slowly move down and lose amenities, lose vision, lose investment, and you don't even know it. It's something that has to be done every day by the city and by the people within the city. And part of that is, and something we haven't talked about up to now, are the staff here at the city. We've talked a lot about fire and police for good reason, but the staff here are extraordinary. They're dedicated. They do a fantastic job, and they make the things happen that have happened for the last 10 years. And I think they're part of that vision. And what we have to do is decide what we want to be, not just in 4 years, but in 40 years. And that's part of our job. Do we want to be the kind of city where families from all over the Midwest want to come here to live, and maybe just to visit, and maybe to play in a tournament because it's such a great city, and stay in our hotels, and and eat at our restaurants? That's the kind of place that we need to create, and that's the focus that I have for the city, and that's the vision that I have for the city. Appreciate the vote, and have enjoyed the evening.
Thank you. Mr. Blair.
Thank you for having us here tonight for this little forum. My wife and I, we moved to Liberty because we wanted the small town feel. We enjoy the small town feel. The schools were excellent. Schools are excellent. Our daughter enjoys the schools here. And that's probably the main reason I'm throwing my name in the hat, is I just want to keep Liberty going in a good direction and staying good for my family to live here, for everyone's family to live here. So April 4th, vote for Todd Blair, Ward 3.
Thank you. Mr. Travis.
Yes, sir. Again, I do want to continue to echo the thanks. I think we can't understate this opportunity that the Chamber's given us to connect with the community, the city for making the facilities, and again, the turnout of previous staff in that. there's really cool to hear some of the underlying themes from people running against each other, people representing different wards and things like that. The underlying values of family and community that really bring out the small town feel. But we are going through a growth cycle, and the next 10 plus years, the northern and southern expansion that we're going to go through are really going to change the dynamics of the next 100 years of the city. My wife and my first date was at a B&B 8 theater that's, as many of you know and has been celebrated, has come, gone, been expanded, and we opened up an amazing 12-plex. Nostalgia in me says it's sad that my old date sites will never be used, but man, is it much nicer with a 4-plex and 3 skeins wrapping around and some sound bars. But no, I think that's the amazing part about that. We have been able to grow, add amenities, add the value, those world-class amenities that Kevin referenced, while maintaining that small town feel. And I think that's an incredible testament to the strategy of those that work in the city, those that have the values, the experience we've been able to achieve, the foresight to look ahead and really plan and make sure that growth is what we want, to where we can maintain that downtown feel. And I think it is important that we continue to look forward and continue to try to prioritize both being world-class and maintaining those small town values that brought a lot of us here. Thank you all and have a wonderful evening. I do hope you'll vote for me. I know I'm running unopposed, but I'd still like to put up some decent numbers if that's all right with y'all. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Ponder.
Over the years, when I was a kid, I couldn't wait to get away from Liberty. And my background here has just been wonderful. I've had one of the best childhoods anybody could have. I still have friends who go back with our grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, and great-great-great-grandparents. And I have great-grandchildren. I have been trying to coerce one of my daughters to move here, and she says, "Dad, that's a long way from where we live." I said, "But you'll be closer to me." I'm not selfish. I've watched Liberty change. I have watched Liberty change. I mean, tremendously. They called it Little Dixie. That was a fact. People's minds changed. Hearts changed. The way people began to treat one another changed. After a while, more than just being somebody's laborer or babysitter or nursemaid or whatever, people started sending their kids off to college. Some of the young men and women who have left Liberty, my dear friends, have gone places and done things that are phenomenal. There was a mathematician who came from Liberty named John Henry Houston Jr., mathematician, not an accountant. William C. Ponder Jr., Marine, Vietnam War vet, escorted 5 sitting presidents of the United States. King Hussein of Jordan, various other people came from Liberty. As he says, not bad for a little boy who came from 410 North Main. Liberty has been the bedrock of my life, and sometimes when I would be out across this country, having lived different places, I could remember something in Liberty and could be at peace because it was sound. Time tested and true, folks. Liberty was sound in my life. The values, the things that the teachers were teaching us, we were little hard heads, as we called ourselves, knuckleheads. But to a person, what Liberty gave us, we gave Liberty 1,000 times that back in becoming the citizens of the world, not just of the United States. To walk out of here and to come back, even as an Air Force veteran, wonderful time. My social experiment. I'm still doing a social experiment, matter of fact. But the fact that I can be here to look at you and tell you I am the best candidate for Ward 1 that you will ever get. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Mrs. Fest.
Thank you for the privilege to be here, and thank you for developing this process, and I appreciate the chamber coming along to do this. I've walked the city, the Ward 1 is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to represent Ward 1, 1/4 of the city of Liberty. I've walked those streets. I've looked in those people's eyes. I've sat down and we've listened. We've had iced tea together. We've gone to the coffee shops, one-on-one. People want to be heard. They want a place in City Hall that they know that they can come to. They want somebody in that neighborhood, and I can be that someone. I know how to work hard, and I know what sweat equity is. I've always worked hard. I know that the different neighborhoods that we have, each neighborhood has its own needs. Each one that I've talked to has its own concerns. Whether it's the new development, that they're trying to keep that hometown feeling, but yet they want the amenities. Yet people do not want new taxes. We have to look and work together. When it comes to sidewalks, can we look at some of the other options? There's something called a 353. Can we work on that? Can that be used for our sidewalks? If we've got things that can be used for large projects, why cannot we minimize those down and come back to our local small neighborhoods? Why can we not develop more parks? We've got parks up at Place Liberté that those people feel as though it's for the forgotten park because it's way on the other end. Then we've got Northwick Park, which is really coming along and is a nice park in the center. However, when you get over to the other side of Liberty in Ward 1, there are no parks. There are no amenities. They're just getting water now. We need somebody for Ward 1 that's been to those houses, talked to those people, looked them eye to eye, and said, I can help. I may not solve your problem today, but I can go forward and I can go and ask the questions. Sometimes it's just somebody asking the right question to the right person. And I'm that person. I'm a worker. If I don't have an answer today, I may have it tomorrow. And if I don't have it, I know there's lots of people in this town that do have it. And we want to grow. We want to grow and we want to have those little pocket neighborhoods where we retain that part of Liberty that we all value and we all cherish. We have to be working with these developers. The next 5 years in Liberty are going to be very, very important. Those next 5 years are going to determine what happens in Liberty the next 100 years. We want to do it thoughtfully and carefully so that we do it right. If we go down the right road, we've got a great experiment. If we do it wrong, we're going to pay for that for a long time. And I want to work together. We want to pull some of these developers in and ask them, how can we do more for Liberty? One of the things I hear over and over again is about housing. 2 weeks ago, we had 21 houses in a city of 31,000 for sale. The top one was over $1 million. That's not in my price range. And when I go to the grocery store and I look at those eggs hurt. I can afford the oatmeal. I want the omelet. Somehow we've got to come together and we've got to marry those two together. We've got to and we've got to involve more people in our neighborhoods. We've seemed to have the same groups that come over and over with their wishes. We do a comprehensive plan that involves 300 people in a town of 30,000. We need more of our people involved. We need more of our people down here. I believe I am the best candidate for this option, for this Ward 1. I am passionate about what I can do for the city. I am passionate what I can do for Ward 1. And with that love that I have for Ward 1 and that love that I have for the city, I think that I can be the best candidate and I can go forward and I can be the best candidate for Ward 1. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and finally, Mr. Knudsen, I know you are running uncontested for mayor, but I know the citizens of Liberty would still love to hear your thoughts over the next few minutes.
Well, listen, thanks for having me, even though I'm running unopposed. It's good to get out and see everyone. I can tell you everybody in this room is committed to Liberty, and I love that. I love that about our community. And I'm with Kevin on this, the idea of vision is the most important thing that you can offer, because that really does dictate what type of community you have. And I've been in a lot of places, and this is where I choose to live. I was You know, I was reminded that I was in Madison Square Garden a couple weeks ago, and it was the 50th anniversary of their last championship win as the New York Knicks. And we've had several championships since then. But they had Walt Clyde Frazier, Clyde the Glide Frazier, spoke to the fans at halftime, and he got up and he said, of course he's speaking to the New York Knicks fans, and he says, you know, we were privileged to play in front of in the best city in the world. And then and of course they all cheer, and I'm thinking, well, it's the second best city in the world. And then he says, you know, we got to play in the most famous arena in the world. And I thought, well, Madison Square Garden really is pretty cool. Okay. And then he said, you know, and got to play in front of the best fans in the world. And I thought, well, you've never been to Arrowhead. But I thought the whole time that really, you know, I love their loyalty to New York. I love their love for New York. But the fact is that I love Liberty. And I literally live on the town square because it's my home. It's the place that I've chosen to live. And while I've been a lot of different places and I've seen a lot of different parts of the world, this is the place that I want to live. This is the place where I think people gladly raise their children. They raise them in an environment that's almost perfect. We have, you know, low crime, low unemployment, highly educated, people committed to the community. I love that about our community. And I look around the area, and all I can think about are the opportunities that we have. I don't ever look at our problems. I always look at the opportunities. And I see, you know, they have an arboretum down in Olathe. They have, you know, a performing arts center south of the river. They have field houses. How many times do we have to hear about kids in Kearney playing kids from Liberty on in a soccer tournament, and they have to go to Overland Park to do it, right? How often do we have to have our people go south of the river for an amenity that we ought to be able to have in this community? Field house, community center, swimming center. Go look at Lenexa City Center. See what they've done for their community. Go to Lee Summit. See how they're revitalizing the downtown. I look at those, and I'm not envious. I want to create that in Liberty. I want everybody in the metropolitan area to say, I wish I lived in Liberty. I mean, the reason we only have 21 houses for sale is because people like living here, right? No one's selling their house to move to. I can start naming all the cities. and I think that's something that you know, I'm doing this not because I have a gripe or anything. I think that there are these huge problems facing the city of Liberty. I think that the people in this community have done a great job for a long time, and we are the recipients of that. And you know, some people up here are going to lose on April the 4th. And what I would hope is that everybody that's involved up here tonight stays involved. Because I ran against a guy for mayor 14 years ago, and then I appointed him to the Parks Board. And now he's the chair of the Parks Board, and he's been one of the most valuable person the Parks Board has ever had. And I think that everybody that wins, loses, or just participates in the election, I hope you stay involved, because the community needs people like the people up here and the people out there, because Greg Duncan is still going to do arts. Lyndall Britton's still going to do budget stuff. Paul Janess is going to do whatever Paul wants to do and tells me that he'd like to do. And you know, because that's what we have in this community, is a bunch of people that are committed to the community. And I hope that we continue that. This is a terrible setting, I think, for actually talking about the future of Liberty, because we all get 1 minute or 2 minutes. And I've had conversations with people up here and out there for hours, and they know I can talk. And that's how you actually think about the vision, actually figure out how we can come together, how we can fund things, what are our priorities, what can we agree on, and that's how we're going to move the city forward. And so I'm excited about being the next mayor, as long as, I guess, there's no write-in candidate for Greg Duncan. You know, no, I think that I'm really proud that I'll get to be mayor of the city again, because it's the coolest job in the world, and I really mean that.
Thank you very much. Well, that concludes our evening. It's been my pleasure to be here with you all tonight. I would like to thank all of our candidates for your time this evening. I'd like to thank all of our attendees that came, the Liberty Area Chamber of Commerce staff for working so hard to put this event together for us, and for making everything possible tonight. We do have some light refreshments outside of Chambers here, if anyone would like to help themselves to that. And as you said, Mr. Knudsen, if anyone would like to talk, please feel free. Spend that time talking and getting to know any of these council representatives.
So thank you to whoever had the foresight on the water. That was that was a lifesaver that I would not have pre-planned myself. So thank you.